Hello everyone, welcome back to another explosive episode of NuclearRevenge, the series where justice isn't just served, it's obliterated. Here we dive into the most extreme stories of revenge, the kind that scorches earth and leaves no bridges unburned. Today I've got 3 jaw-dropping tales that redefine payback. This first story's titled, Stepfather Stole Our Inheritance and My Brother's Future. Some men don't scream when they're angry. They don't throw punches, or break dishes, or slam doors. Some men just sit there, perfectly still, while something deep inside them turns cold and sharp. That was me, the night my brother died. But that's not where this starts. This starts with my mother. Her name was Ellen, and she deserved a better ending than the one she got. She raised 2 boys on her own after my biological father died when I was 3 and my little brother, Noah, was just a baby. She was strong in the quiet way that doesn't get noticed until it's gone, working doubles at a hospital, never missing a school play or a scraped knee. She never remarried until I was 10, and Noah was 8. That's when Tom entered our lives. Tom was the kind of man who smiled too much when he was lying and never raised his voice unless he wanted the room to stop breathing. He worked in finance, some vague corporate job no one understood but everyone respected. He dressed sharp, spoke softer than he should have, and gave me the creeps from day one. Mom loved him, though, said he made her feel safe, which, looking back, makes my stomach twist. She needed someone who made her feel protected. Instead, she got someone who made sure she was the one doing all the protecting. Tom was always polite in public, friendly, even. He coached Noah's soccer team one season, came to my school awards once and shook hands with all my teachers. But behind closed doors, he controlled everything: the thermostat, the groceries, even the dinner table conversation. It was all subtle, psychological. He'd shame us when no one was looking, talk down to Noah, especially, make him feel like an idiot for asking questions or showing emotion. He never hit us, never yelled, but we learned to fear the quiet moments more than anything. I escaped the second I could, got into a state school 2 hours away and left Noah behind. I still carry that guilt. I told myself I was doing what I had to, that I'd come back for him once I had a stable job, a place to live, a way to bring him with me. But life didn't wait. It collapsed. Mom died 2 years later. A brain aneurysm, they said. No warning. One minute she was texting me about Thanksgiving plans, the next I was standing in a funeral home trying to remember how to breathe. Noah was 20, I was 22. And Tom barely looked shaken. He gave some speech at the service about how lucky he was to have loved her, then went right back to work the following Monday like nothing had happened. That's when we found out about the money. Turns out, Mom had been saving for years. Her parents had left her a decent inheritance, and she'd tucked it away into a trust, something meant for me and Noah when we turned 21. It wasn't millions, but it was enough to get us both on our feet. Enough to erase student loans, maybe buy a small place, finally live without counting pennies. But there was a catch. A fatal one. She'd made Tom the executor. She trusted him. We didn't question it at first. Grief fogged everything. Tom said the paperwork was complicated, said it would take time to settle. Then months passed. Then more. Eventually, he handed each of us a check for $6,000 and said, "That's what's left after settling the estate." I still remember the way he said it, calm, clinical, like he was doing us a favor. Noah took the check without a word. I tried to fight it, asked for documentation, account statements, anything that showed where the money went. Tom said we could talk to his lawyer. His lawyer never returned my calls. That was the beginning of the end for Noah. He'd always been more sensitive than me. He wrote poetry, played guitar, cried at movies even as a teenager. That softness made him beautiful, but it also made him vulnerable. After Mom died and the money vanished, it was like watching someone fade in real time. He moved in with a girl who didn't care about him, got a job at a gas station that barely paid rent. I offered to help, but I was still buried in debt and trying to stay afloat myself. Tom never called him, never reached out, never said a word. And then one morning, I got a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice, cracked and shaking, telling me Noah was gone, that she found him in her parents' garage with a belt around his neck. He'd left a note. 8 words. I was never enough for him. I'm tired. I read that sentence over and over until the letter stopped making sense. I didn't cry at the funeral. I didn't scream. I didn't punch walls or blame God. I just got quiet, because I knew exactly what had to happen next. Tom didn't just steal money. He didn't just erase our mother's legacy or abandon my brother when he needed him most. He took a gentle soul and ground it into dust. He watched a boy break and turn away, and I was going to make him pay. Not with fists, not with blood, with everything. I was going to take his life apart from the inside, piece by piece. And when he realized what was happening, when he reached for something solid to hold onto, I'd make sure it crumbled in his hand. I didn't go after Tom like a son avenging his family. I went after him like an accountant balancing a ledger. Cold, meticulous, absolute. He lived in a colonial-style house on the edge of town, one of those neighborhoods where the hedges are trimmed with military precision and no one waves unless it's from behind a curtain. He still still wore those perfect button-downs, still drove the black Lexus with the spotless leather interior, still played the role of respectable widower. But I knew what lay beneath, and so did a few other people once I helped them remember. I started with what I knew. Tom was a financial advisor, ran his own office, dealt in middle-tier wealth management for small businesses and older couples who didn't quite trust apps to handle their retirement. He thrived on image. Trust. That was his weak point. So I created a pressure point. I spent weeks collecting everything I could. Public records, business filings, old emails I dug out of Mom's laptop. I found gaps, small but suspicious, in his bookkeeping from years back. Creative write-offs. Vague consulting fees that didn't match up. I even found a deleted message from his assistant, one where she questioned an expense he'd asked her to file under vendor bonuses. He told her not to worry about it. Next, I set up an anonymous Gmail account, branded the name to sound like a disgruntled former client, and I started sending packages to the IRS, to the state financial regulator, even to two of his wealthiest clients, the ones who appeared in Yelp reviews fawning over how honest and transparent he was. Each envelope included a printed report of his inconsistencies. Each was watermarked with a subtle quote from the financial code. Each warned, "You may want to investigate before someone else does." But I didn't stop there. I knew Tom had recently gotten engaged. Her name was Diane, a real estate agent, glossy, polite, the kind of woman who valued status above all. Perfect match, really. They had matching social media pages full of sunset dinners and charity gala photos. So I messaged Diane, too. This time, I used my real name. Just a simple note: you might want to ask Tom why his late wife's children only received 6% of their rightful inheritance. Then ask where the rest went. She didn't reply, but within a week, her profile went dark. The financial firestorm didn't hit all at once. These things never do. They unravel slowly, like a thread in a stitched-up lie. First, one of Tom's clients pulled their account. Then two. Then three. His reviews started dropping claims of inconsistencies, unprofessionalism, trust issues. He tried to fight it, but image is like glass. Once it cracks, it doesn't matter how hard you polish it. Then came the audit. I don't know what exactly triggered it, maybe the IRS, maybe a tip from one of the wealthier clients, but I know it gutted him. His office was closed for 2 weeks. When it reopened, there was a new receptionist. His longtime assistant was gone. I wasn't done. Noah had loved music, played guitar like he was born with strings in his veins. I found one of his old demo CDs, a scratchy, imperfect, beautiful recording he'd made in our basement back when life still had color. I digitized it, uploaded it anonymously to a local radio station's independent music show. They played it. Then I wrote an email from a grieving brother and told the story behind the song. I changed the names, left Tom out, but the people who knew, they knew. I wanted him to hear it. I wanted him to hear Noah's voice echoing out of car radios, grocery stores, gas stations. Let that be the ghost that followed him home. A month later, Tom listed his house for sale. The audit had uncovered enough discrepancies to put his license under review. Diane laughed. His clients didn't come back. I heard from someone at the golf club he used to frequent that he'd been disinvited quietly. Reputation poison spreads fast. And then came the final nail. I sued. I found a lawyer young, hungry, and pissed off after hearing the story. We sued Tom for mismanagement of estate assets and failure to distribute inheritance funds per fiduciary duty. The case wasn't airtight, but the optics were lethal. My lawyer presented the evidence with a quiet kind of fury. Showed the court Noah's note, the timeline of financial depletion, bank withdrawals, the lack of documentation, the vacation Tom took to Mexico 3 months after Mom's death, paid for from the estate. Tom settled. He didn't even make it to court, probably too afraid of the headlines. The agreement was confidential, but I can say this: the amount was exactly what Noah and I had originally been owed, plus interest. Blood money, scraped out of the remnants of his crumbling reputation. I didn't donate it. I didn't start a fund. I took that money and bought a house Noah would have loved, an old fixer-upper near the woods, quiet, with a porch wide enough for 2 guitars and a bottle of bourbon. I left his room untouched, hung his favorite flannel on the back of a chair, set his guitar in the corner, strings slightly out of tune, just how he always left them. And every year, on the date I found out he was gone, I light a fire in the backyard. I play that scratched old demo he recorded in the basement, and I make sure the flames rise high enough for someone to see from miles away. I don't believe in ghosts, but I believe in memory. This next story is titled Best Friend Stole My Wife. Some betrayals don't come in a single blow. They unravel you thread by thread until you're standing in the wreckage, realizing the hands that tore you down were the same ones you used to call family. Jared and I met when we were 8. I'd just moved to town after my mom's death gutted my childhood. My father had gone silent and mechanical, and I was a ghost in a new school until Jared crashed into me during a recess football game and declared we were friends. Just like that, no hesitation. He was the kind of kid who never asked permission for anything. Loud, impulsive, with a smile that made adults drop their guard. I was the opposite. Quiet, careful, always calculating 3 moves ahead. But we fit. It was like some unspoken agreement between us. I'd be the strategist, he'd be the shield. We grew up that way. Halloween pranks, backyard campouts, scraped knees, and broken rules. If one of us got in trouble, the other always had an alibi. When I got into college, Jared stayed back. He said school was never his thing, and I believed him. He bounced around jobs, bartending, construction, car detailing. Nothing stuck, but I never judged him. I had my path. He had his. Still, no matter where I went, he was there. At my graduation, at my father's funeral, always at my side, always my brother. And then came Lila. I met her during my 2nd year of grad school. She was magnetic, sharp, self-assured, with that rare type of beauty that feels earned. She didn't smile easily, but when she did, it felt like it was just for you. I was smitten, terrified, too, but she liked my awkwardness, said it made her feel like she could breathe around me. Jared met her 6 months into our relationship. I brought her home for Christmas, and he was already waiting in my house, helping me string lights like we used to. He greeted her with that same big grin he used on everyone, and they hit it off too well, in hindsight. I remember the way his eyes lingered a beat too long when she wasn't looking. The way he told me later, after a few beers, "Damn, man, you really lucked out." We got married the following fall. Jared was my best man. It should have felt like a full circle moment, my childhood best friend standing beside me as I built my future. But instead, it felt off, like a song slightly out of tune. During the reception, I caught him staring at her. Not glancing, staring. And when she saw him, she didn't look away. I buried it. What else could I do? I wasn't the jealous type. I wasn't going to be the insecure husband sniffing around shadows. But the shadows grew. It started subtly. Lila became distant. She'd stopped asking about my day, started criticizing little things, my routines, my music, my quietness, said I didn't engage enough. Then she started going out more. Late night drinks with friends, weekend spa trips. Jared's calls became less frequent, but when they came, they were always vague. Busy. Man, life stuff. I should have trusted my gut, but denial is a hell of a drug. I wanted to believe I still had the life I thought I'd earned. The truth came crashing in on a random Tuesday night. I came home early from a conference, flight bumped up due to bad weather. No calls, no warning, just unlocked the door and stepped into a quiet house. Her purse was gone. Our bed was made, but only my side look slept in. I tried calling. No answer. An hour later, I finally tried Jared. He picked up on the second ring, voice thick like he'd just woken up. "Yo. What's up, man? Have you seen Lila? She's not answering." A pause. "Nah, man, haven't talked to her in a bit." And then, there it was. Her laugh. Faint, in the background, but unmistakable. That specific way she giggled when trying to sound innocent. I didn't speak. I didn't have to. I hung up. That night, I sat alone on our front porch in the freezing dark and mapped out their destruction. I wasn't just hurt. I was humiliated, betrayed by the 2 people I'd trusted most in the world. They hadn't just stabbed me in the back, they'd smile while doing it. I thought about all the moments they must have shared behind my back, all the times they used my trust as cover. The betrayal had been growing like mold, feeding on my blind faith. So I made a decision. I wouldn't confront them. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. No! I'd dismantle them, quietly, completely, with the same methodical patience they'd mistaken for weakness. Because some people take everything from you, and some people make the fatal mistake of thinking you'll just take it. They forgot who I was before the quiet. Before I buried my grief and sharpened it into something useful. I had watched my mother die, buried a father who never knew how to love, and clawed my way into stability with nothing but discipline and a refusal to quit. They thought betrayal would finish me. They were about to learn that I don't fall. I erase. I didn't start the revenge right away. For months, I let them think I hadn't figured it out, that I was just another clueless husband clinging to a crumbling marriage while my best friend kept his distance. They got bolder. Lila stopped pretending to care. She'd stay out all night, offer no excuses. I'd ask where she'd been, and she'd give me the dismissive smirk like I was an insect buzzing in her ear. So I played along, pretended to be the fool. I cleaned the house, cooked meals, left little notes like we used to. Sometimes I'd even send Jared texts, old memories, fake concern. Every message, every gesture was bait, luring them deeper into the illusion that I was broken, desperate, and still blind. I needed time, because I wasn't just going to destroy their relationship. I was going to annihilate their reputations, their finances, and whatever future they thought they could build together. The first step was legal. I met with a divorce attorney, one with a nasty reputation for dragging cheaters through hell. I gathered everything: phone records, credit card charges, location logs from the smart thermostat they didn't know logged every entrance and exit. The lawyer helped me document and freeze what I legally could, while slowly preparing to drop the paperwork at the perfect moment. While that brewed, I went after Jared. He ran a small auto detailing business, nothing fancy, but enough to call himself self-made. The truth was he underreported earnings and paid workers under the table. I knew that because I'd helped him set it up. I still had access to his old bookkeeping software, and though he'd changed the passwords, he hadn't changed the link recovery email. A Gmail account he forgot we set up on my laptop years ago. One password reset later, and I was back in his books. What I found was damning: thousands of dollars unreported, fake invoices, tax evasion spanning 4 years. I printed everything: photos, spreadsheets, internal messages. Then I created an anonymous dossier and mailed it, first to the IRS, then to the state tax office. I even included a list of employees he'd been paying off the books. One of them was 17. Let that simmer. Next, I went after their social circle. Lila had cultivated this pristine Instagram life, trendy, charitable, always filtered to perfection. So I created a burner account. It followed no one, had no followers, but it messaged everyone: screenshots, timestamps, proof. I didn't send it all at once, just enough to start whispers. People love gossip more when they have to piece it together themselves. Their fall from grace began slowly. First came the frozen bank accounts. I had already removed my name from the joint accounts and redirected my paychecks. When Lila tried to access her emergency funds during a girl's weekend, they were gone. She called me at 3 a.m. crying. I didn't answer. Then Jared's shop got audited. He called me that same day, panicked, asking if I knew anything. I told him maybe karma was real. He hung up on me. A week later, I served Lila the divorce papers at a restaurant. Her face when the server handed her the manila envelope? Worth every second. She didn't even try to hide the shock. Just sat there frozen while the couple at the next table side-eyed her. But I wasn't done. She'd moved out weeks before, but I still owned the house. The mortgage was in my name. One night I let myself in while she was out and walked through what used to be ours. Her clothes were still in the closet. Jewelry. A laptop. So I boxed it all. Nothing stolen, just stored. Legally, I could hold it until the divorce finalized. Let her start from scratch, like I had to. The final blow came 3 months later. I invited Jared to meet me one last time. Said I wanted closure. We met at the same overlook we used to go to as kids, back when life was simple and the world wasn't full of knives in the shape of people. He showed up late, looking ragged, beard unkempt, eyes sunken. "What do you want?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. "Just watch the city lights in the valley below." "I just wanted to see you," I said finally. "Wanted to remember who you were before you betrayed me." He flinched, barely noticeable. "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that." A pause. He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "You lost everything, didn't you?" I asked. He nodded. "You did this?" I smiled. "No, Jared, you did. I just showed everyone who you really were." He looked like he wanted to hit me, but we weren't 16 anymore, and he knew it wouldn't fix anything. "I hope she was worth it," I said, turning away. "She left," he muttered, 2 weeks ago." I stopped walking, turned just enough to see the outline of his shame. "She'll be fine," I said. People like her always land on their feet. I didn't say the rest out loud, that I'd already seen her new profile on a dating app, selling the same polished lies to someone else. I walked away. That was the last time I saw him. A month later, the divorce was final. I kept the house, the savings, even the dog. Jared's business license was revoked, and last I heard, he was working at a chain garage 2 towns over, living in a studio apartment. Lila moved to the coast, started fresh. I let her. I had no interest in dragging the ashes of what she was through more fire. They burned my life down, so I made sure they'd never build anything with the wreckage, and I slept better than I had in years. This last story is titled "My Brother Stole a Family Farm, so I Let Him Destroy Himself." There are 2 kinds of family stories, the kind they write in holiday cards, and the kind that die quietly behind closed doors. Mine started dying the day I came home from college and found my father sitting in the barn, staring at a broken tractor like it was a gravestone. He looked older than I remembered, slumped, silent, hands resting on his knees like a man who had held something heavy for too long. My mother had passed 3 years prior, and after that, the farm started to fray around the edges. Dad kept it going on pride and muscle memory, but that kind of fuel runs out eventually. I came back because I couldn't stand the thought of it all rotting away. I left a desk job in the city, took a pay cut so deep it bled, and moved back into the same room where I used to tape football posters to the wall. No one asked me to. I just did it, because that's what you do when something matters. My younger brother Ryan, on the other hand, didn't come back. He was living in Denver by then, tech startup, big glasses, talking in acronyms. He sent birthday cards, showed up for Thanksgiving, and left early every time. He was always the one with bigger plans, the one Mom said had a spark. But sparks don't feed a field. I did. For 9 years, I worked that land. I rebuilt fences, replaced irrigation lines, modernized our equipment through leasing programs and cooperative grant subsidies. I went to county meetings. I brokered deals with local grocers, tightened relationships with seed vendors, and started a small program training veterans on sustainable agriculture. People in town began to say, "The coal farm's coming back." Dad noticed. He didn't say much, he never did, but sometimes I'd catch him watching me like he was seeing something settle in him, something long overdue. Ryan didn't notice, didn't ask, didn't care. But then, just after Dad's health started declining, he came home more often. Once a quarter, then every other month, then once a month, always flying in, always staying at a hotel instead of the house. Said he didn't want to impose. Dad got sick fast. Liver failure. He didn't drink, it was just bad luck, bad genes, or both. I was the one who bathed him, fed him, sat with him during hospice visits while the morphine took more and more of who he was. Ryan wasn't there when he died. He flew in the next morning, dressed in black slacks and a pressed shirt, like he was visiting someone else's funeral. At the service, he gave a speech about hard work and legacy. He mentioned Dad's values, mentioned the land, said it shaped who we were. A few people clapped. I didn't. The reading of the will came 2 weeks later. I remember the exact smell of the lawyer's office, leather, paper, faint mildew, and the way the air shifted when she opened the envelope. I, Gerald Cole, she read, being of sound mind and body, do hereby bequeath the Cole family property, house, and all assets therein, to my son, Ryan Cole. I blinked, thought I misheard. Then I looked at the paper. The signature was his. The date was recent, 3 months before his death. I'm sorry, the lawyer said quietly. There was a previous version, but this is the final document on record. Ryan didn't look surprised, just nodded and said, Dad and I talked. He wanted to be pragmatic. That word, pragmatic. Like I'd been chasing ghosts while he'd been handling real decisions. He offered me a job, said I could keep working the land, manage the day-to-day while he handled the higher-level stuff. I'd be paid, of course, generously, with benefits. I declined. The next week, he sold the south field, 20 acres that used to grow our best alfalfa crop, to a developer from out of state. They bulldozed it in 3 days, built a paved driveway and dug a foundation for model homes before the first month was over. And that's when the grief cracked into something colder. I didn't want the land back. I wanted Ryan to feel every inch of what he'd stolen. I started by leaving. Didn't fight the will. Didn't file a claim. Didn't argue. I told people I was taking time to figure things out, but what I was really doing was watching. I knew Ryan didn't know how to run a farm. I knew he didn't understand soil acidity, crop rotation, when to lay lime or when to let a field lie fallow. He didn't know that the old irrigation pump needed priming every other cycle or that the north fence line sagged just enough to let coyotes in unless you checked it after every frost. But Ryan thought he was smarter than everyone else. He hired a management company, some out-of-town AG consultants who wore polished boots and spoke in ROI metrics. They redesigned everything, brought in genetically modified crops that didn't match our climate, replaced the local suppliers with national chains, bought equipment on high-interest loans. Within a year, the yields dropped. The year after that, one of his employees was injured when a tractor flipped on a slope that used to be flagged as no drive in all our logs. And the year after that, he took out a line of credit using the property as collateral. That was when I made my move. The loan Ryan took against the farm was from a predatory regional lender known for high-risk land flips. I'd worked for them briefly years ago, auditing collateral assessments. I knew their internal codes, their tactics, and more importantly, their legal thresholds. Using public record access and a burner laptop, I watched Ryan's filings like a hawk. He'd overvalued the land by a lot. The southern parcel he sold had inflated his projection, but that sale was a one-time event. When yields dropped and input costs rose, his margins collapsed. He tried to pivot agritourism, online produce sales, even a contract to grow decorative lavender for a retail chain. I quietly sabotaged every one of those moves. Lavender needs dry roots. I paid a local hand to accidentally overwater his beds for 6 weeks. The crop rotted. He missed the delivery contract. The retail chain pulled out and demanded damages. He tried farm-to-table dinners, sold out online, but the caterer he hired was a friend of mine. I tipped him off to Ryan's bad rep with local growers. The guy canceled the week before the event, citing logistical misalignment. The refund payouts bled what little cash Ryan had left, but the real blow came from inside his books. I'd spent the last 2 years slowly poisoning his data from the back end. It wasn't hard. His consultants used a public-facing API dashboard for their soil and crop analysis software. I found a bug, and I used it. Slipped in false metrics. Adjusted pH readings just enough to throw off his decisions. Not enough to raise alarms, just enough to ruin a season. He replanted entire fields with crops doomed to fail under the real conditions. It wasn't immediate, but over time, every wrong move dug him deeper. Then came the audits. I sent anonymous tips to the State Agricultural Grant Office, details about misuse of funds, misrepresented yield reports, labor violations. I had evidence for every single claim, because I'd helped forge the false numbers when I was helping out that first summer. They froze his subsidies, suspended his grant account. He tried to fight it, but he had no records to back himself up, because I'd made sure those were gone too. When the foreclosure notice finally came, I was already sitting with a private buyer, the same lender that had issued Ryan his line of credit. I offered to purchase the land under an LLC, presenting myself as a third-party investor interested in rural property restoration. My paperwork was clean, my capital was real, and I had the records showing how valuable the land once was under my care. They accepted my bid. 3 weeks later, Ryan received a letter saying the land had been repossessed and resold. He showed up at the property one last time. He stood at the fence line, arms crossed, jaw tight. He didn't say anything at first, just stared at the fields that had defeated him, the house he never cared about, the barn I rebuilt in secret over the past few months. "You," he said finally, "you set this up." I looked him in the eyes. "No," I replied. "You did. I just helped gravity do its work." He looked around, like he was seeing the truth for the first time, what he had squandered, what he had stolen, and what it had cost him. "You think this makes you better?" he asked. "No," I said, "it just makes me right." He walked away without another word. I never saw him again. I didn't keep the farm for myself. I donated it to the co-op I helped build, to the local agricultural apprenticeship program, to the veterans who came to the land hoping for healing. I kept a small cabin on the West Hill, overlooking the fields. That was enough. The land thrived again, not because of legacy, but because it was back in the hands of people who treated it with respect, not hunger. The Cole name no longer hangs on the front gate, but every fence post, every furrow, every root in that soil remembers who saved it, and who tried to sell it for parts.